This is all of it on WNYC. I'm Allison Stewart. The Whitney Biennial is ready. Every 2 years, the Whitney organizes an exhibit which surveys the state of American contemporary art. The first year the Whitney Biennial took place was in 1932. The Whitney Biennial 2026 opens for member previews today and then is open to the general public on Sunday, March 8th. Opening day will be free for all visitors because admission to the Whitney is free on the second Sunday of each month. There are 56 artists, duos, and collectives included in this latest show. There's a video game designers, a mother and daughter duo, sound and art working in concert. It's a lot in the best way. Joining me now are this year's curators, the Whitney's Marcela Guerrero and Drew Sawyer. They're both here with me now for a preview. It is nice to talk to you both.
Good to see you, Allison.
Thank you for having us.
So the biennial is always a huge effort for a curator, Marcela. Going into the curation process, what were your goals?
When Drew and I were selected to be the co-curators of the biennial, we had meetings and I think one of the first things that we decided was to not go into it with a preset idea of what we wanted to show. Both of us have done big group shows, and we know what a good, thematic, cogent group show can be. Yeah. But in this case, we wanted to just, meet as many artists as we could and listen to artists and see where they were, because the task of the biennial is to take the temperature, right, of American art in the last 2 years. So that's kind of what we set out to do.
Drew, what kind of tone were you hoping to strike with this show?
I think we really wanted a range of tones. I think, I feel like we wanted to kind of create an exhibition that hit on many different emotional registers. Just the way that, we experience that in contemporary life right now in the United States, and especially online. I think online is a good kind of marker of the way, if you're on Instagram looking at stories, one thing can be really terrorizing, sad news, and the next thing is like humorous or really cute. And I think we wanted the show to kind of reflect that in various ways.
Oh, that's so interesting, because as you went through the show, you see something that makes you laugh, and then you turn the next corner and would have you in tears.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. So there are 56 artists, duos, and collectives in this show. Marcela, how did you go about identifying the artists and the talents to consider?
Yeah. So we assembled a huge list of names and artists, more than 450 artists. And then we decided, okay, we need to travel wide and go to as many places as we can. And so we were very diligent in our ways of traveling. So we went to a lot of cities that had biennials and triennials and big shows, so we could see a lot of things, and also do a lot of studio visits. So at the end, we visited probably a couple of dozen cities, including international. And then we also visited more than 300 artists. Yeah,
that's amazing.
In a year. Yeah.
Drew, what is a studio visit like for you?
It was really a range. I mean, I've done studio visits in the past, but certainly not 300 in less than 12 months. Nearly, a studio visit a day, at least during the work week. And I was really just, it was like amazing how they were really all so different. Some artists approach it more as just a conversation, right? You just have really interesting conversations, sometimes not even about their work, but just about things they're reading, what's happening, just different ideas. Other times then, if an artist especially is like really object-based and is like working materially, then you're looking at, things in the studio. And then sometimes it's even more like a pitch, right? An artist has like, this is their chance, and they're going to give you like 3 ideas of works that they've always wanted to present inside the Whitney Museum. Like, the thinking site specifically about the building and about the biennial.
Oh, so that's interesting. There are artists who pitch to you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, that's very interesting. Marcela, when you're having these conversations and you get a collection of artists and you think you have the right artists for this show, are you thinking about the visitor?
Definitely, especially now that the Whitney has 3 free programs. We're free under 25, free Friday nights, free second Sundays. We really have to think about our visitors, and we're probably going to approach 1 million visitors this year, 400 to 500,000 visitors just to see the biennial. So we are really, with our team, an excellent team of art handlers and registrars and conservators and security, thinking about the flow of visitors and how to also give them a really nice, gratifying experience where they can see sightlines, put artworks in dialogue with each other, and at the same time secure the work, of course. And it's a fun puzzle to resolve in the space with the artists and then with our colleagues.
We are previewing the 82nd Whitney Biennial, opening to the public on March 8th and now open for member previews. My guests are co-curators Marcela Guerrero. Did I say it correctly?
You did.
Thank you. And Drew Sawyer. All right. I went yesterday with my camera in hand. I put a couple pictures on Instagram at all of it WNYC. You should go see everything in person, I should say. But I did want to ask about a couple of New York artists because we're WNYC. David L. Johnson, this really struck me. He's born in 1993, and David has removed dozens of code of conduct signs, and he has put them up. They're in public spaces and private spaces, too, and he's put them up on a wall about the restrictive rules. First of all, when did you first hear of David's project?
Yeah. David's been working for a while. He shows with a gallery called Theta in Tribeca, and he's had a couple shows, and he's been included in other group shows around the city and elsewhere. His more well-known body of work is called Loiter, where he removes standpipe covers, much more kind of sculptural objects. Whereas this is a new body of work really premiering here in the Biennial, which was super exciting, and he was really excited to show this. And, it kind of continues that, which is really kind of interventions into public spaces or the way that public spaces have become privatized.
Yeah, it's so interesting. What did it evoke for you looking at that piece?
It's very conceptual and it's, something that we had to work also kind of behind the scenes with our general counsel.
Sure, of
Shout
course.
out to Nick Holmes, because they have been, removed from private spaces. But it makes us think about, the spaces we occupy and who gets a claim to say who owns it, right? And it's about land and ownership and belonging.
Yeah, it was interesting. The word lying down was on almost every single placard.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And it left me sort of speechless at the end, that lying down is a problem.
Yeah,
Totally.
Yeah.
Also, we talk about Kamruz Aram, an Iranian-born artist now living in New York. He has beautiful pieces, including a folding screen. He uses oil and pencil and oil crayon on linen. What is Kamruz referencing in his work on view?
Yeah, a lot of his work in painting, but also kind of decorative art, architecture, is thinking about histories of European American modernism, and in particular the idea of the grid that is so prominent in those histories, especially in the 20th century. And he's comparing that to histories of abstraction in decorative arts or ornamentation, especially in Persian art. So he's thinking about rugs, but you see there's a painted screen within the gallery. There's also ceramics. Again, where kind of histories of abstraction lived in those art forms, but are always usually seen as kind of secondary within a hierarchy of what are high art forms, especially, again, in European American art histories, especially the histories of painting. So he's kind of playing with those systems and mapping those two together.
Precious Okuyaman. It's a wild exhibit. So you get off the elevator and you see a doll in a bunny suit with a black face sort of nailed to the wall.
Yeah.
It's part of an installation that was called Everything Wants to Kill You and You Should Be Afraid. What do you like about the way she uses dolls and discarded toys in such unusual ways?
Yeah. So in the case of Precious, that's an example of traveling internationally even. We went to Bregenz in Austria to explicitly see their show. And there we saw these dolls and stuffed animals with taxidermied wings, kind of with a noose around their neck, floating in the space. And it was really impactful. And for the biennial, we have one bunny doll, as you said, Allison, on the wall, and kind of previewing what's going to happen on March 25th. On the 8th floor of the museum, we're going to have the presentation very similar to what we saw in Bregenz in Austria. But what's really impactful and captivating about Precious's work is that it combines, these, as they say, absolute cuteness with violence at the same time. So you feel that tension, very palpable. And using the idea of the toy as this threshold that encompasses both object and subject, pain and beauty, coziness, cuteness, with histories of racial violence.
It's wild. I wanted to ask about Pat Olesko, a favorite of mine since the 1990s. So it's this sort of, a massive inflatable. It's called Blowhard. And she once said, it's in your book, I make a spectacle of myself and I don't mind if you laugh. Why did you want to include Blowhard?
I think both of us were kind of less familiar with Pat's work until she had a solo exhibition at a gallery downtown called David Peter Francis.
Oh, really?
And that was, I guess, 2 summers ago. And we were both really just taken away by her practice, which is really about, she's a performance artist, and then those performances include a lot of hats and costumes, as well as inflatables that serve as props. And I just love the kind of absurdity and humor and the way she's thinking about, especially, she talks a lot about, kind of in moments of authoritarianism or any kind of authority, right, including curatorial authority, doesn't like to be made fun of, right? Humor is a powerful tool, and I think she's known that since the 1970s. She moved to New York in the early 70s. She's been active ever since, and what I admire about her is that she's really stuck to what she's been doing from the beginning, and only now really getting her due. In fact, she has a full survey of her inflatables and some of her costumes at Sculpture Center right now in Long Island City.
She's the best. You also include collectives, the CFGNY. It's made up of 4 Brooklyn-based artists who, and this is what it says on the placard, who take both a critical and playful approach to Asian subjectivity. Where do we see this in this piece? Their pieces.
Yeah, they're probably primarily known as fashion designers, and they've been working in the field of fashion for about 10 years. So many people have probably seen presentations at New York Fashion Week, seen people wear their clothing. We actually have some of the items from their new line in the museum shop, but we're presenting another aspect of their practice, which is really more kind of sculpture, installation, kind of, I would say, like institutional critique in various ways on the 6th floor of the museum. And that is kind of an architectural structure that shows ceramics, as well as these kind of plushy sculptures that also play with this idea of cuteness. But the ceramics are really interesting and play into this idea of what they call vaguely Asian. And they're really interested in different kind of commodities that circulate both within the U.S., but many of them coming from East Asia. So they took items that they found in shops in Chinatown, right, that kind of designate various ideas of Asian culture, and they used those to make molds of new ceramic objects that are kind of torn apart in various ways.
All right, Marcella, please correct me if I'm wrong, but you are the first Puerto Rican curator at the Whitney?
I am. That's correct, yes.
There was a New York Times piece that said you are leading the way in the field of Latino art. Was that on your mind as you were putting together the biennial?
Yeah, certainly. It's always in my mind. And I think both of us are known for Drew as being a curator of photography, an expert in his field. I'm a curator who has been presenting and championing a lot of Latinx artists. But we wanted, I think, both of us to kind of go a little bit beyond our purview in the typical shows that we do. But at the same time, we can't ignore, as you know, Bad Bunny has taught us, that Latinos are here and we're not going anywhere. So there's a really robust representation of Latinx artists in the exhibition.
We've been previewing the 82nd Whitney Biennial. It's opening to the public on March 8th and now open for member previews. We have been speaking with its co-curators, Marcela Guerrero and Drew Sawyer. Thank you so much for being with us, and thank you for the Biennial.
Thank you so much, Allison, for having us.
Thank you.